Welcome to the Amato report. As Europe goes in terms of their pop culture, oftentimes, eventually, America goes. In other words, the values and the pop culture in Europe oftentimes prelude what happens in America 10, 20 years later in terms of our values of pop culture. And we need to be focused on what's happening there so it doesn't happen here. I know we've all been focused on a war in Iran lately, but let me tell you, there are things we need to pay attention to. Let me give you one such story that's not making the headlines here in the US with the Iranian news, and that is this. Dutch doctors in the Netherlands have have euthanized a teenager who asked to be euthanized because he said life had become too difficult. They legally killed him, a teenager. We don't have the exact age. They say he was between the ages of 16 and 18. Wasn't this young boy too young to make this decision? Oh, the doctor said that he euthanized him because he had no doubts whatsoever, quote, no doubts whatsoever, that the teen boy had the mental capacity to make this decision. So he had the mental capacity, but he doesn't feel that the boy could have grown from there. Let that sink in, folks. Then a Dutch doctor in the Netherlands has legally killed a teenager between the ages of 16 and 18 who said life has become too difficult. As I said, pop culture in Europe oftentimes precludes what happens here. Join me at this time as someone who is not only following this story, but you could say that has lived through a similar story, but with a better outcome. She's author of the book called The Book of Heaven, a story of hope for the outcast, the broken, and those who lost faith. Joining me from Atlanta is Katie Asher. Katie, so good to have you with us. Can you believe the story in the Netherlands? Isn't this boy, he's a young kid as far as I'm concerned.
And thank you for having me. And the story is completely tragic, and it's nothing less than murder. That's exactly what it is. No one, not the elderly, not the incurably ill, no one should have the assistance of killing themselves, nor should any doctor ever be involved in killing. That is the opposite of healing. And you are given rights and licenses as a physician, and they are never to do harm. They are always to heal.
Have we seen any response from the parents of this teenager?
None that I have seen. And what is tragic is the lack of hope that so many parents and young people have. And that is where we as a society have really got to change the messaging. We have to recognize that every single life, no matter what difficulties and obstacles that person faces, that their life has infinite value and worth. And it is our job as a society to help them integrate, find community, find love, find their value so that they can contribute what they've been given by God to offer to the world.
You know how Europe has gotten to where it is in terms of like.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
It actually has to do with something that started around 500 to 700 AD, and that's humanism. And it started in India, and it went through the intellectual circles, and really actually had a huge part in inspiring the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason, which had a huge influence in Europe. What that means is that man's reason is the source of truth. You can see quickly how this can end up where we are today. And it is not the source of truth. And what people need to realize is that our human capacity to perceive through our senses is limited to only 4% of the information. So these young people or parents or doctors or anyone, if they are limiting what they think is possible or what they think the outcome is based on what they're observing, then they're not giving themselves an opportunity to recognize how much is possible, which is 94% or 96% more than they can perceive.
And how could someone as young as a 16, 18-year-old have the life experience to know what can be overcome and what can't be, and what
They can't. They first of all, their brains aren't fully developed, as we well know. But not only that, their hope has never even had the opportunity to be exercised. Hope is something that you take and you believe in an outcome that yet has not yet been reached. And how on earth are we going to teach people how to overcome obstacles and how to develop the human capacity to overcome if we're letting them kill themselves at the first time anything's difficult?
Now, you've lived through a similar situation with your son, correct?
I have. My son was neurologically injured by vaccines as an infant. We were given absolutely no hope. There was no question that this was a vaccine injury. The hematologist identified it as such. And we were given no hope. All the IQ test said he's intellectually disabled. There's nothing, his life will mean nothing. And when he was 21 years old, we found that that was absolutely not true, and that he actually was completely in there the entire time. He had understood everything, but his motor had been injured. And he actually has the ability to perceive more than the rest of us do. And that perception has actually just exploded in the depth of understanding about the spiritual and metaphysical all around us and the potential we have through faith and love.
How's he doing today?
He's doing great. He's 29 and he's gotten about 2 years done in college, but that's slow. It's slow. But we're running a marathon.
Yeah, exactly.
And the outcome isn't a degree. It's not a piece of paper. The outcome is worthiness, to find their place in society, to find people who know them and love them, and to participate and experience their own worthiness.
What have you learned from your life experience with your son that relates to this story in the Netherlands?
That what you perceive is very limited in our neurotypical experience. And that what Houston says, what I have learned is that hope has the capacity to change our lives. And that would be the biggest message. Thought, and this is the incredible story about Houston's life, is that he has the ability to hear other people's thoughts, perceive other people's emotions. That made me realize that thought is actually energy.
Wait, he hears thoughts?
Yes.
Holy Toledo.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't interrupt you.
No, it's totally fine. And of course, once you realize that thought is energy, you realize it goes by the same laws of energy that all other energy it applies to, which is the very first being the law of conservation. And that means that energy is neither created nor destroyed, it's only transferred. So whenever people are being despairing, they're actually exerting energy. And when people are hoping, they're also exerting energy. And our world actually responds to our thoughts and emotions. So that's what we realized, is that the potential in every human being to change their circumstances is specifically resides in their thoughts and emotions. And then how we use those to either better our lives or despair our lives.
When and how did you first discover or learn that your son could hear your thoughts?
When he was 21, that's when we started with the spelling. That's him right behind me there. And he starts spelling out the answers to all the questions I'm asking. And not only did he know all the answers to the questions I was asking him, he knew things I didn't know. And so when I asked him, how do you know all this? Like, for example, he was spelling out the whole Declaration of Independence. He explained that he could hear thoughts. And hold on one second. Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay.
And so he explained that he could hear thoughts. So of course I tested him and he could. And not only was he able to do that, but then I started asking him questions in my mind without even speaking. And he answered the question, spelling out the answer to the question without me ever even speaking. That would be the beginning. And that was literally the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that people don't understand. And that goes back to what I was saying. Our senses are only capable of perceiving 4%, and there's another 96% of information out there that's operating all around us.
What was the doctor's response when he discovered and learned that Houston could hear your thoughts?
The very compassionate doctors actually understood it because they understand energy. They have a scientific mind, so they understand the capacity of the human mind and that thoughts are actually electrical transmissions. So they had an understanding of it. I would say that the rest of humanity was a little bit more difficult in understanding that concept.
Even though it's scientifically proven.
Yes. I think it challenges people's realities. And they all of a sudden have to recognize that the world is more than what you can see. And that's frightening for a lot of people.
So your book is called The Book of Heaven, a story of hope for the outcast, the broken, and those who have lost faith. How does your experience and this story in the Netherlands, how do you tie into heaven on this is what I'm asking.
Well, when you have the ability to see and experience the metaphysical world, you realize that there's more than just this physical world that we're experiencing. And there's infinite hope. And that's what we all need to be tying into. And this young man who was despairing and felt like his life was meaningless didn't want to go on. I would say, number one, his life wasn't even remotely as difficult as my son's, completely trapped in his own body. So there's perspective, number one. No matter how hard you have it, someone else has it worse. And that should encourage you, not discourage you. That should be, I can do this. There is hope. If this person is carrying on with even a greater burden, then I should be encouraged to find what is possible for my life. Whenever we take action like that, especially permanent action and in our life, we prevent God from doing the impossible that we need to see to believe.
Yeah. Any final comments, Katie?
Well, I would love for everyone to understand that all things are possible for the one who believes. That is the most important thing, is that our thoughts are real, they are energy, and they actually go out and they change our lives. And what we intend, what we put our focus on is where the energy transfers to. And so we need everyone to be putting all of their focus and their intent and their energy on hope, on love, on faith, on truth. These are the things that will actually change all of the world. It will change Europe. It will change the United States. It will change the entire world, because when you change the hearts and the minds of people, you change culture.
I agree. And the mainstream media understands that.
Yes, they do.
Give us an example of what you focus on with your energy each day.
Every day, we focus on Houston's healing, his complete healing, and that is incredibly important to us. We also focus on the exposure of truth, all the voiceless getting a voice, and these are real things that are actually beginning to take place. There are court cases that are now being overturned. There are bills, communication bills of rights that are going forward in different institutions in legislatures. We are changing the world because we are shifting from a place of despair and hopelessness to a place of belief.
So when you say you focus on hope, say for Houston, or what does that mean in terms of logistics? Is it saying something out loud? Is it thinking something positive? What does that mean? You focus your energy on hope for Houston.
Well, first of all, I look to God's word and I see what exactly is promised to us in the atonement. And that is probably the primary source of hope that we have. And when you look at what Christ actually achieved, and we're coming up here on Palm Sunday and Easter, you have to look at the full atonement, and that includes healing. The word sozo in the Greek that is translated into salvation over 140 times actually means fullness, wholeness. It means spiritual healing, physical healing, provision. It means peace with God. It means everything that we lost in the garden. So we have the cross and the resurrection to claim the hope that we have for healing for ourselves. And so that's what we hope in, and that's our source.
Okay. So reading the Bible, did I oversimplify it by saying that?
Yes, I would say believing the Bible and acting like everything God says is true.
Got it. Got it. Wow. Okay. Well, Katie, it's an amazing story that you and your son have been through. I really appreciate you taking the time to share it with us and our viewers across America. And let's hope that there's that common sense and good judgment returns to the Netherlands.
I do too. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. There you have it, folks. Back with more after this.